All right, we're going to talk about doubling your profits. Even if you haven't had major clients, how to land those major clients and continuously get bigger and bigger clients willing to pay you more. Well, a flywheel effect by hitting the right success conditions. We're going to talk about what those are and how you to find those out, and also how to even upgrade your current clients on this Garlic Marketing Show. I've got my returning guest, my good friend Mandi from Hands Off CEO. Mandi, say hi.
Hi.
And we're gonna talk about all that and more on this Garlic Marketing Show. But of course, it's brought to you by videocasestory.com. If you want to find that big case story inside of your company, go to videocasestory.com/finder, or we'll help you find the perfect case story to deliver these results that Mandi's going to talk about. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
We're going to talk today about something that is absolutely crucial, because I realized there's a mistake I realized as we're marketing video case stories. As we're creating video case stories, there's a big mistake I want to get into and talk about how to fix that mistake, and how Mandi is fixing that mistake with their clients and allowing them to get bigger and bigger clients in a flywheel that actually gets easier and more profitable. And something I've talked about in a certain way with the case story flywheel, but she's actually going to talk about the success conditions, the things that make this happen. And so, Mandi, before we get into the how to do this, tell me about how you discovered these success conditions and this flywheel effect, and maybe it's a specific story about it.
Okay. Well, so as we've worked together with our clients, we've been doing this at Hands Off CEO for like 12, 13 years now. And I have noticed that a very clear line that I knew that if we worked with clients that had great results, that it was a lot easier to grow their company. They had a more pricing elasticity, which meant if they could get paid, 50%, 100% or more for the same exact work, I mean, you can run the numbers on that, and it can be hundreds to even 1,000% or more profitable for your company. So what we really discovered is that results are really critical, and it's the most important part in order to be able to have a consulting firm, a service-based firm that actually can scale, because most companies out there are attempting to scale deliverables. And there's a real problem with that, because in the market, deliverables are becoming more and more commoditized because AI can do it, because cheap people overseas can do it. And the margins are getting thinner and thinner. And ultimately, what needs to happen to make these business models work is you have to have really strong profit margins, but you need to have strong fees. To have strong fees, you need to have a really great body of work. You need to have case studies to show this is the kind of transformations that we do. So just over the years, I've discovered this. I mean, I have another story that was like a really emotional story that drove me to do this work too, if you'd like me to share that. But this is kind of the big picture for why it's so important.
Yeah. So let's say, because you recently started about this, but we were talking about it before the show, and you don't necessarily need the case study to have happened, right? To get those results, eventually get those results.
That's right.
Grow.
You don't. You have to start somewhere, and I've had to start somewhere. And two different companies that I started without having I didn't have this huge background in it to leverage. I was starting from scratch. So my only option was I had to produce results, absolutely, or I wasn't going to get paid. So in my first business, as an agency, I would go and I do the work, and I say how 100% happiness guarantee. If you're not happy with it, I'll give you your money back. And I did that one time, and that was what allowed me to get work. But I didn't necessarily know how to be able to connect the dots between the work that I did and the really big results. And I was trying to connect the dots, but I didn't know how. And it was really frustrating for me because I wasn't getting the level of projects that I wanted to get. And I just didn't know how to solve that problem. And I don't think I really solved that problem until I got into the second business, where I started to look at the problem very differently. And what I did is I started to look at it from the vision. So I created the vision first. So you don't have to have the result necessarily. You just have to have a vision of what you see as possible for this client. And then you need to look at how do we work backwards to be able to make that happen. Now, most people are looking at, well, you know what, this person showed up in front of me. Well, these are the processes that we can take them through. Fingers crossed, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's really not our fault if it doesn't work. Not a very compelling value proposition.
No.
And the market's getting really sick of it.
Yep.
That's why we have longer buying cycles right now. We have this trust recession that's going on, and it's getting harder and harder to be able to sell professional services because people have been burned so many times.
Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about, like, let's say, either way, someone either wants bigger clients, or they want, to get bigger and bigger clients, or they don't have the client and they want to get bigger clients. How do they plan out to quickly escalate to get bigger and bigger clients?
Right. So let's take an example of a company that they have a number of clients already, and you might be able to track them across a bell curve. On one side of it, you have maybe a couple clients that are paying you high amount, maybe 10, 20, 30, $40,000 a month, whatever that is. You have a couple clients doing that, and then you have a number in the middle that are somewhere between 5 and 8,000. Maybe less than that. And then you have a big chunk that are even less than that. And one of the things that I see happen is that they don't really know why some clients get great results and why other ones don't. They haven't sat down there and looked at what is the input that generates this output. So then what happens is that they feel completely powerless to be able to impact results. So when prospects come to them and say, well, what can we get as a result of working with you? Whether they say it or not, they're thinking it. And if this business cannot answer this question well, then what they're going to get is a small budget and starter projects that are not very profitable in many cases. And they're going to then use that low fee to be able to keep that fee like that for as long as they possibly can. And you chasing to try to keep building it up. So the typical way is like is hustling it out and over delivering to be able to increase the budget. And a lot of times what that does is it just gets them more and more used to you working harder and harder for a smaller amount of money. The other way to do it instead is to look at two different cases. You have your very best clients. What do they have in common? What kind of budget did they give you? What is their product like? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it high volume and low ticket, or is it low volume and high ticket? It's like all these different variables you look at. What did they have in common, so that you can start seeing a pattern for where you do your best work and what conditions that you need to be successful. And I find that a lot of business owners, when they're looking at this, they have a hard time coming up with that list, but they have a very easy time coming up with the list of problem clients. Like, they can list that off. Well, they didn't give us enough budget. They blamed it on us. They didn't do the work. They changed the order 5 times. You can add all of these lists. Now, So your success conditions are opposite of that. So you just look and say, now, if we had these success conditions in place for every single one of our clients, what might be possible?
Hmm. And talk to me a little bit more about those success conditions. Like,
Right.
do they change over time, or
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely, they change over time because our success conditions have changed over time quite a bit. In some ways, they have lowered, and in many ways, they've increased. So I'll give you an example of that. Is that as we were just talking about before, Ian, we used to to work together with our clients to help them be able to double their fees, to help them be able to bring in a much higher retainer for the work that they're doing. Um, they used to have to have a considerable body of work already that we could leverage into the case studies to be able to sell higher ticket services. Because our process is so much more dialed in, now we can work with companies that are just really committed to it. They really want to deliver results, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, and they're willing to put their neck on the line to be able to say these are the kind of transformations we create for our clients, and they can start with the end in mind. So those are so that success condition is an example of one that we've been able to be a little looser on because our process is tighter. And we have proven the process so much that it's becoming easier and easier to deliver it. But in some ways, it's gotten a lot tighter for our back end services where they absolutely must either have an operations manager in place or an operator or be willing to hire one. And if they're not willing to do that, we absolutely cannot work with them because we've had too many cases where they say, yeah, I want this. And 6 months goes by and they still haven't hired this person. And meanwhile, we can't get the company to run without the CEO if they don't have somebody in place actually doing the work, right? So it's
Yep.
an example of a success condition that we've had to learn how to really enforce and have tougher conversations conversations up front during the sales process and saying, we absolutely must have this in place. You want to be able to go from 1 million to 5 million in your business right now. We cannot do that with you unless we have an operator in place. You are slowing down growth right here, and we're not going to be able to get your result. You see how you enforce those success conditions?
Yep. No, I mean that's absolutely critical. And I know, like, especially I know when we work with clients, if they're a larger company and they don't have that person in place, they're just not going to get the results, right?
Right.
They're just not, because they're not going to get the things done. They're going to get distracted. They're visionary, um, and also, I think a lot of times what people do is it's like with dieting, right? It's like you lose a little bit of weight. You're like, well, I lost the weight. I can go back and not focus on the stuff again, and then you gain the weight back. And you need someone that's going to keep you in place. Um,
Yeah.
what are some of the other success conditions that people can be concentrating on a regular basis that they need to be refocused on?
Right. Well, one of the most important success conditions that everyone wants is the budget. They need to have the budget to do their best work. So what ends up happening is a lot of times the vision that they have sold to their client is not compelling enough for them to get the budget that they need to do their best work. So then what happens is clients will say, well, this is the only budget we have. And what that actually means is that's the only budget they have to apply towards this experimental project that they don't see having a high likelihood of success beyond the small budget they've given it.
Yep. No, exactly. And then it comes back to your point. It's like, then they also expect, the small project to get the big results because you've sold them on the big results, but you say, hey, let's start with that small project. And so, instead of, I see that all the time. It's like, you need to start, if you're going to sell a small project, you need to say, this is only going to do this one little thing.
Right.
Right. And you might get a taste of it. And I mean, I know too, it's like, because people are always like, well, what if I just do one video? I'm like, no, you need to do like at least 3 video case stories, and then eventually the rest of your core 4 videos for this to work. And because a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to dip my toe in. I'm like, well, that's not how this works. Um, and so and it's easy for us, right? Especially when you need money to not do it. How do you make sure that you are adhering to that success condition of budget?
So I think it's such a perfect example of what you said there, as is that you just differentiated yourself from all these other video production companies and say, oh, you need a video? I'll do a video. Sure. They're doers, but you're a leader. You are leading them to an outcome. You say, like, we have this vision. You want to be able to add this amount of growth to your company. This video strategy will absolutely help you do that. But we can't do that with one video.
Yeah.
And you know that. I know that. So are you willing to commit to this as an actual strategy, or if you just want if you want a one-off video, then we're not right for you. We actually are a growth partner that's going to help you be able to grow your company. And that right there usually turns around the conversation, something like that. Um,
Yes.
but a big part of it is just having the courage to say no, and also having the integrity to say no.
Mm. Yep.
Because if you here's the thing is that the easiest thing for a company to do is to actually not do this hard work, not do the work of understanding the success conditions, because now if they know the success conditions, they actually have to do something with it.
Yep.
And now they have the responsibility to say no to companies that they know they can't help.
Mm.
And I think that's why a lot of people would rather just say it's out of my hands. It's not our responsibility, instead of actually going and doing this deeper work. And it's a huge disservice to their clients. They're taking on work, and they're creating a situation where they are building their brand for delivering mediocre results.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because it's something I've realized too with like video case stories, and we've gotten better about this with even collecting the video case stories, is making sure that these are the stories of the people that they want more of. Like
Yeah.
really, because it's like, oh, I got these results, I got these results. But if you got results for someone who doesn't believe in paying you enough, or doesn't believe in like in or they're a unicorn within their tribe, you're going to end up not being able to grow. And I've heard this too. It's like, oh, people won't, the people that come in can't afford me, right? And I'm like, well, so you're telling the story of people that couldn't afford you to people that can't afford you.
It's so true. That's an example of where the client selection is so important, and then being very intentional about what kind of results do we want to be known for? Who do we want to be known for these kind of results? And the thing about the budget is that a lot of times people think that, okay, we need to just go find these elusive clients that have the bigger budgets. But the reality is that a lot of these clients are actually already in your business, and they'd be willing to give you more, way more than they know that they're willing to give you, by the way, if you actually have a very compelling vision that you're willing to offer them. And actually, that's the easiest way to make this work is with your existing clients. Would you like me to share like how to be able to, like, tomorrow start upgrading existing clients to this?
Of course.
All right. So 4 words. I have another idea. So look through your existing clients and your past clients, make a list, and I look at what are the ones that have had some really big breakthrough results, and who else can you see that you might be able to create those kind of results for? Who else might be possible to create those results for? Or maybe you've never created those results, but you're looking at this and you're saying that they're sitting on a gold mine here. Like we've got to wake them up and help them see what's possible for their company. And the great thing is that you already know so much about their company. You already know what success conditions are in place or are not in place. And when you can come in and you say, hey, I have another idea, you book another call to talk about this idea, or like, we're seeing this result happen in this company. Would you like us to share you what we're seeing work right now in companies like yours? They're like, yes, of course. Thank you for sharing this with me, right? So you have a conversation. You got to prepare. You got to look at what variables do you need to change within your growth strategy that you can expand? And if you did that, what kind of result could happen? And be prepared to like, we like to use profit calculators. So look at what those variables are and be able to actually show, if we increased your traffic this amount, if we increased your conversion rate this amount, if we like, those are just some examples of different variables, maybe for like a digital marketing company. But when you actually know what are the factors that will drive results for your clients, and then you just share this new pathway with your existing clients or your past clients who you already have trust with, who have already gotten results from you, then you're entering into a new kind of relationship. You're moving from a transactional relationship, or maybe somewhere in between a transactional relationship and a transformational relationship, where you're saying, we see this potential for you. And I did this with one of our clients, who's worked with me since like very beginning of the company. He was at $600,000 a year, and now we're working towards the $10 million company. He's a private client, and
Wow.
doubling his profits on top of that. So now he's at 4 million, and we're now tracking over 5, and we're getting to 10 million over the next 3 years. It's actually going to take less than 3 years. We've already found a way to double the net profits on this. So it took something to share that vision, and it also took looking at what are the success conditions that we need to remove that. You know what? One of the success conditions that was a real biggie, that was rough to move, is that we had to replace his operations person that had been there for 3 years. We hadn't been working with them, and he was an obstacle to growth. I didn't know we had to replace him, but we definitely needed to help him step up, and he wasn't willing to. So we had to. It was kind of painful, but now that he's removed, we found all sorts of opportunities to improve profitability and to get the team really driving growth without just like this one guy in the middle kind of stopping everything. So I needed a bigger vision for him. Did I know exactly how we were going to do it yet? Nope. But I knew for sure we could. I just know because he's actually been an example of a client that I've brought new things to. I said, let's try it out. And like, and I know that we can get a result. I know it. But like, sometimes I don't know exactly how. And it really comes down to your conviction and your willingness to even like put your neck on the line. Like, if you can't get results, give them their money back,
Yeah.
But I find though, if you put your neck on the line like that and you're willing to do whatever it takes, you'll make it work. And then each one of those things, it builds your confidence. And then it allows you to have that case study to be able to leverage to the next thing and to the next and to the next.
100%. Yeah. And, it's interesting because that success condition, like I was just working with Dan Cashel, from, former CEO of Genius Network. And we were doing an event, and he was talking about this, and it was the first time he revealed it. And it was like, at each stage in the business, and actually very specific stages, how like you're going to need completely different people, right? The people that got you there, or either they're going to have to move into a different role because just things are going to need to operate completely differently. Right. And no one really talks about that. They talk about the growth of business, and they talk about scale, and so many people talk about selling and marketing, but that's not the key, because you need to be getting these results at scale. And so right. you need the right people in place. And that is a big success condition, is the right people at each of the stages. Because you can get away with less of a person. I mean, not that you don't want to hire A players, but you can get away with a little less of a person up to a certain stage. And then if you're getting with bigger clients, you need a higher quality of service and a higher quality of results, because they expect that if they're paying you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. And right. Yeah, that's fantastic. And so, okay, so like people's another one where, and I like that you admit too, it's like, hey, we're not going to know exactly what to do. And I think this is a tough one, because you've got to sell them on a framework. But I was just talking about this today and writing about it today, because if you really want to succeed at marketing, yes, there are fundamentals you need to do, which most people don't do. But then if you really want to win at the YouTube game, you got to be trying stuff out, and you've got to be trying some different stuff once you get the fundamentals in place. And people all the time like, well, how am I going to tell if this works? I'm like, well, increase the bottom line, but some of the stuff won't work, right? And
Right.
so how do you sell that idea of
You sell to someone you have a whole lot of trust with, and
yeah,
who has seen you pull rabbits out of magic hats over and over again. So I can, but I didn't just come out and say, hey, we'll see if it works. That's not. I had a really clear plan. But what I meant by that is
yeah,
keeping it.
it's not like you have a plan in place, but it's this thing, it's like there's a chance this won't work, right?
Well,
it,
there's a chance it won't work in this particular way. I know it's going to work, but there are 20 different ways that we could generate more profits. I know that these two ones are going to generate more profits. And then what we found is something way over here that I did not expect, that right off the bat, found an extra $250,000 of net profits. There's your profitability right there. So,
yeah.
but here's the thing is that you use this as your laboratory, and you got to charge enough so that you can actually do the experimenting work. And this is also good for like when you're becoming more hands off in your company, you might be more hands off in certain parts of it, but then you might be more hands on in your private clients where you're doing a little bit more experimental work. But it's easier to do that work because you have all those success conditions. I mean, I have the success conditions, but he's an absolute gem. I know that if I tell him to do something, he's going to go do it. And like we see results right off the bat because he does that, So that's something that I know will work as a result of that. But this is not a scalable way to do it. This is a way to be able to push the limits of what's possible in your company if you don't have those case studies yet, and also to expand the results with your clients. And part of it is just kind of fun to be able to see them like, I want to see this guy's company get to 20 million. The next vision that he got clear on was 10 million. But it took something for me to help him be able to see that's even possible, because he's like, you know what, I'm back in the day-to-day on this, and I'm working a lot of hours. I don't even know how this is possible, right? So I had to help him build that belief first and foremost, and then I had to help him get over that roadblock, that invisible roadblocker that we didn't even realize. I thought we were going to be able to develop him. Honestly, I thought we would be able to develop him, his ops manager, but he didn't want to be developed, so he jumped ship. And it was a good thing that he did, because now he's got a really great operator in place.
That's amazing. So we get these success conditions in place, and we're continuously getting bigger and bigger and higher quality case studies, and profits increase. What are some of the pitfalls that we need to avoid?
People pleasing. We need to avoid people pleasing. We don't want to be doing this process forever. Like what I'm sharing with you, how you can expand your results with it, how you can get better results and prove that. But you need to have a system that you can scale. And like that's I know we've talked about that in some past interviews on your podcast here around irresistible offers and being able to create ROI up like really early upfront. So being able to generate results as quickly as possible with your clients. Not doing that is a pitfall, because you get fired. If you don't get results fast enough, clients will not want to continue.
Yeah.
So people pleasing, I shared, was one of those obstacles. Not charging enough. So going and promising the moon and then not actually being able to give yourself enough money for it. The whole point of being able to share a bigger vision is so that you actually have you can get a bigger budget. Not and still being stuck in this, like, you can't sell a vision and deliver deliverables. You have to deliver outcomes, and you have to work with your team for them to get that mindset. It's a different mindset.
Yes. So you have a list of how many success conditions are there in general?
Well, I would say you probably have like a dozen in your company, right? But it's just different for every company. Like, we've given some examples here, but those are just examples, and they're going to be different for every company. Every company is going to have different examples. We've worked with lots of companies from similar industries, and every one of them have different success conditions, and no two are alike.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And so, but you have a guide to helping them discover their success conditions, right?
Yeah. So I did put together a guide specifically for your audience here for how to be able to create bigger results by identifying these success conditions. And I'm also going to throw in there how to I'm going to share when there's like 3 scripts that you can use. I'm going to share the exact process for how you go to your existing clients and increase their budget. Like right there off the bat, that could be worth 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Like if you actually work that, and it's really simple to do. You just have to have some courage and some vision. So
Nice.
if you go to handsoffceo.com/garlic, you can download that guide. It's just a few pages long and it's really quick and easy to be able to implement.
Awesome.
Simple to implement, rather. Let's say it's simple.
It's simple, not necessarily easy. There might be some
Yeah,
heavy lifting and
yeah.
yeah, and some tough conversations, but simple to implement. All right. Well, we'll make sure to put a link to that in the show notes. And of course, you've got your book out there, a hands-off CEO, appropriately named.
Mhm.
Where's the best place to get that?
Yeah, you can actually get that from our website, handsoffceo.com/book. And you can get a copy of it for yourself for $4.99. It includes the audio version and digital copy and some special bonuses with that as well. So handsoffceo.com/book.
Awesome. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And of course, we'll put a link to your YouTube channel where you're doing a lot of awesome stuff. Well, Mandy, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on and talking about these success conditions. I think it's so important for people to understand. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me again, Ian.
All right. And thank you all for taking Mandy and I on your journey, making us a part of your story. This has been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.